I'm Alex with the AWS training program, and in this video I'm going to show you an overview of AWS, and I'm going to go into the AWS console and show you some of the services. So what is AWS? It stands for Amazon Web Services. One of the more powerful things about using Amazon is you pay for what you use. So it's like pay on demand instances, and when you sign up with a new account, there's a lot of services that have a free tier available. So your costs are going to be pretty low because most of what you use is going to be within the free tier. One of the cool things about using AWS is that a lot of services can scale. Now, it's not every service, but a lot of services are built to scale. So if you set your website or web application up with Amazon, you're all set to go. If your customer base explodes, your app is already built to handle that. So if we look on AWS's main page, you can see some of their main services such as Ec2, which are virtual servers in the cloud. They allow auto-scaling, 3 for storage, database, Amazon Aurora, RDS, Redshift, Dynamodb, working in content delivery, VPC, Route 53, CloudFront. What I would think most people start using AWS for, and that's for hosting websites and web applications. Services that you're probably most interested in, if you're interested in a website or web application in AWS, is Amazon EC2. So with EC2, you can run Amazon Linux, you can run Ubuntu. If you need to run a custom web application running LAMP or mean tech stack, or you need to set up WordPress, any website you need to. There's also S3 for scalable storage, content that you're going to deliver that can be downloaded. Amazon also has a CDN, which is a content delivery network. CloudFront scales and distributes your content across the world. So instead of with S3, where it's just located in one location, CloudFront, you deliver your content faster because it's cached on servers all around the world, as opposed to just having it in one location. Route 53, so if you need to hook up a custom domain name. And all these services, some of them are more simple, like S3, and some of them are more advanced, like EC2. Like with EC2, you can set up Ec2 Auto-Scaling, and when you hit certain thresholds like CPU limits, memory limits, you can basically scale up more servers, and you can set a startup script that will actually kick off processes. So like say you're processing a bunch of stuff off of a queue, which Amazon also provides. They provide a queue service called SQS, so you can spin up more servers to read stuff off the queue. You can auto-scale with that. If you do S3, it's already built for scalable storage. Same thing with Dynamodb, it's already built to scale. But with Dynamodb, it's a little bit different. With Amazon Dynamodb, it's NoSQL. So, then of course there's AWS Lambda. These are great if you want to create scalable APIs. So you use Lambda to run code, to typically smaller microtask functions inside of a Lambda that are run on demand, 5 minutes or less. And you can use that with API Gateway to create scalable, publicly accessible APIs. And you can even use API Gateway and Lambda to create serverless websites. Although that is a little bit more advanced to set up, you can create a serverless website with AWS. Of course, there are a lot more tools than just those. I mean, just scrolling down. So if you scroll down, there's a lot of services. You're not going to cover all the services in this video. Definitely a good skill to know to set yourself apart from other web developers, because not everyone has a lot of experience with AWS or knows AWS. So it's a good skill to set you apart. It can even earn you more money. Now that we're logged in, this is what the dashboard looks like. If you click all services, it shows you all the services. And yes, there's a lot, but there's really only a small handful of services that you're probably going to need to use for any given project. So it might look intimidating, like, yeah, there's a lot here, but most of these you're not even going to really need to use unless you really want to. Let's jump into S3. So here's S3. You can go ahead and create a bucket. I already have one created here. You click into it. You can store HTML files. You can store any type of file, really. It's pretty cheap and affordable, and you can even use this to set up a static website. Although you're going to just use S3 for hosting, I would recommend combining it with CloudFront, because that will give you faster delivery of the files in S3. And actually, if you're going to use S3, I would recommend using CloudFront in general, because you use caching with CloudFront, you'll mainly just be paying the cost for CloudFront instead of the cost of S3. If you use CloudFront, your files will be delivered faster to the user. They'll be loaded faster, downloaded faster. So I would just recommend doing that. And also, if you're going to use a custom domain name with just S3, it can only be served over HTTP. But if you use CloudFront, then you can use HTTPS. So let's take a look at CloudFront. So CloudFront, you can just go in, create a distribution, web or RTMP. Really, web is the main one that you want. And if you want to hook this up to a bucket, if you click in here, your S3 buckets will show up that you can hook up with CloudFront. And there's all this other info, but most of it you can just kind of leave as default. But we could take a look at one that I have up and running right now. So the origin is the S3 bucket. So EC2, they call individual servers instances. So if you go in, you can launch an instance, and this is where you get a selection of all different kinds of AMIs. And Amazon actually has their own Amazon Linux AMI that you can use. But you can also use Ubuntu if you'd like, and there's plenty of others available as well. So if you go and select Ubuntu, so right here, you can see that the tier 2 micro, you actually get one free tier server per month, one T2 micro per month, specifically only a T2 micro per month. And this is only, it's only for the first year, but I still don't know anywhere else that can beat this deal where you get a free server for an entire year. Like even cheap other hosting companies, like they'll give you like the first month for free, but like Amazon, they give you an entire year of a free server, which is, I mean, it's a pretty great deal, and it's a pretty good way for them to get more customers. I mean, if we just go through the rest of it, I mean, most of it you can just kind of set as, just leave it as is. Yeah, like we could take a look at Route 53 real quick. Like you would just go in and yeah, sometimes it shows these start pages, but you could just, if you just click it started now, it goes past that. So create hosted zone. And so this is like if you have a custom domain name, you would hook this up, and there's a process to actually hook up the domain name. So you are allowing Amazon to give subdomain control over the domain. So you don't have to buy your custom domain name in AWS. You can have it in any hosting provider out there, and you hook it up through here. And this one is a little bit interesting because right now, currently Route 53 doesn't have a free tier, but it is pretty cheap. It's like 50 cents for a hosted zone, which is used for a custom domain name. So it's not a free tier, but 50 cents, take it or leave it. What else is there? So Dynamodb. Let's take a look at that. That you could just go in, create a table name. You could need to pick the primary key. And for the defaults, it has set to 5 reads and writes. If you're starting out, you really only need like 1 read and 1 write, but it really depends on how much usage you think it'll get, because they charge you based on how many reads and writes you get. So if you do 5 as opposed to 1, it'll be 5 times as expensive. Now it's still pretty cheap. I think at 5 reads and 5 writes, it's like right now it's like at I don't know, $1 or $2 a month. It's pretty cheap. Let's see what else is there. Lambda. So let's take a look at Lambda. So with Lambda, you could go in, create a function. This runs serverless code. I would recommend just just going with Node and creating a test one. It's pretty straightforward. You can set the timeout. The default timeout on these is super low for some reason. They set it to 3 seconds, so that's something that you can easily increase. And also the memory value, you can increase that pretty easily. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much just a basic overview, just talking about some of the services. If you want tutorials on how to use these services, I will have links below to other videos to show you how to use these. I would recommend starting out with some of the easier services like S3 and CloudFront and Route 53, and then after you learn those, maybe moving on to Ec2 and Lambda. And if you want more advanced, more in-depth tutorials, you can sign up for free at Aws Training program. I'll have more in-depth videos there. You can also add more in-depth content there on a regular basis. If you want more AWS videos and more AWS tutorials, subscribe for more videos. And thank you for watching.